these kids love hearing about what God can do in their lives. Like it is attractive to students, and I think it is because of the scourge and of sin that is in the schools, like this violence and the drug abuse and all of this. Like kids need to hear about their only hope.
Hi, welcome to the Decision Point podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hobson, president of Decision Point, where our mission is to proclaim the gospel to this next generation until every student has heard. And I got to tell you, one of the best things about Decision Point are the young, courageous men and women of God all across the country and soon around the world who are standing up, living all out for Christ and witnessing for Christ in their public schools, even enduring great hardship for the Lord with the conviction that He's worth it. And I'm so excited today. With me is Jude Fillenberg from Tucson, Arizona. Jude, welcome to the program.
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. For those who don't know you, Jude, you are a senior in high school. Are we allowed to know how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 18.
You're 18? That's great. When did you turn 18, by the way?
Just September,
September. Well, happy early birthday for your 19th. That's too late to say happy belated birthday. We'll get ahead for 19. Jude, you're a senior at Mountain View High School in Tucson, which means you're graduating high school in, 6 months out?
Yeah, just about.
Are you excited for that yet?
I'm very excited, yeah.
That's neat. So, okay, what in the world is going on at Mountain View High School these days? Yeah, Mountain View's great. The students are awesome. We got a new principal a few years back, and she's just making changes for the better, in my opinion. It's just been really good. Our club on school as well is launching off. We've had more students than ever come in and learn about Jesus. So, yeah, I'd say it's pretty awesome. That's amazing. Well, we're excited to dive into your story and your journey to even get to where you are today. Take us back in time a little bit. You started this club at Mountain View High School, Tucson, Arizona, your sophomore year. Tell us what motivated you to start this club in the first place, and what was it like getting that going for you guys in the first place? Yeah, for sure. Well, I would say my biggest motivation was the people in my life. Not only my parents, who have always just been really great, but Bree and Eric Loveland, who are the official staff here in Arizona. They were wonderful, and like everything that we were doing, all of the early calls that they gave me when they first were reaching out to me were really nice, and they were willing to cooperate with like everything that I had going on, which was a lot my sophomore year. With school. And so, just the wonderful people around me, rearing at me to do this. I mean, I had been praying for an opportunity to better serve the Lord for years now, since middle school. And then I get to my sophomore year, all of a sudden it's like God puts these two angels that are the Lovelands down on earth to just like give this mission to me. And it's awesome. Hey, I like Eric and Bree, but let's not get totally carried away here. Yeah, okay? Right, of course. And it was okay. Well, tell me more about that. You're praying all the way back your middle school year for a bigger opportunity to serve the Lord. What made you decide to pray that, and what were you envisioning a yes from God might look like with that? Yeah, for sure. Well, so in middle school, I just saw from a shift to my elementary school, which was very, very lighthearted, to my middle school, it was a low graded school. There were a lot of kids doing drugs, and there was a lot of violence and all that. And it was like a switch in my mind of just like what my priorities were when just talking with God. I was like, these students need Jesus. It's not even just like my life is pretty good with God and I'm doing all right. It was these children need Him to survive, just like I did. And so I had been praying, just like whether it was for good opportunities to talk with them in class, or same with teachers, not just students, but just really to be able to connect with them more when it comes to the basis of my belief in Jesus. And right between the summer of my freshman and sophomore year, I was at a party for a church that my friend invited me to, and
all of a sudden there's Bree Loveland, and she starts talking about Decision Point, and how I can form a club at my high school, and how there's already students at my high school who are down to do this, and they just need one more, and I was that one more, and it was just like crazy. Like all my dreams were coming true. I was thinking about what this would look like, the sort of things that we do, different events, and how we'd be reaching out to kids with like our announcements on during our study period, or flyers or whatever. My mind was all over the place. I couldn't wait.
So, okay, so take us deeper into what you were seeing there. You're seeing a need, and I love how you said you were seeing, it's compelling to hear you're saying, okay, you enter middle school and all of a sudden you can tell the tone has changed on campus, and you're seeing need in your peers' lives and even in your students' lives. I know middle school is several years ago for you now, but do you recall, what were you seeing? How were you seeing that need so clearly displayed that it just hit you as hard as it did?
Yeah, like not even just with my close friends, but even within that group, like drug abuse was something that just came out of nowhere. Like something that I had only seen in movies, or, like if I walked to a bad part of town during my elementary school years, automatically just became the biggest problem within everybody's life at school was whatever it was, whether it was marijuana or, which a lot of students are now not doing. Well, I know there are some that are, but like now with the whole nicotine within the vapes and like all that sort of stuff, like it is a total takeover of all that, and I had never seen that, and so I was like, whoa, these are a lot of kids like younger than me or my age that are addicted to drugs, that like not even just like oh yeah, we'll try it or something like that, like addicted. They're selling their stuff to get to this. They're putting themselves in dangerous situations so that they can get that. And then violence, like actual violence, kids bringing guns to school or knives to school and keeping them in their lockers. And
okay, pause. Are we still talking middle school?
Yeah, middle school. This was the reality, and it's like, all of a sudden your mind is just in a place where you're like, I don't know how this can be real. Like that sudden of a shift into just danger, whether it was the physical side of that, with the drug abuse and the violence, or just the emotional side on children. Like these are children, young children's lives that are being changed, by these terrible means. Sexual abuse. I had personal friends who had to face that in middle school. And it's like, this should not be something that is actively impacting students, young students, but it is. And so from that point on, it's like what else can I pray for other than these students and the lives of my peers? They're going down in a spiral, and they can't even claw themselves out. Like they need somebody to pull them out of that. So
thanks for sharing that. I admire, that here you're 12, 13, 14 years old at the time, and you're letting that need you're actually seeing it. You're seeing it, like really seeing it. I know we were at a conference together a couple weeks ago, and our colleague Greg Steer of Dare to Share gave a message, and we got to hear him give together Matthew 9, which is a passage we've looked at so many times, 35, 36, 37, 38, where Jesus sees the crowd, that they are harassed and helpless, and his admonition is, so we need to see students and see the hell they're going to, the hell that they're going through, and actually like borrow Jesus' glasses or contact lenses and see students like he sees them. Yeah. And you were doing that in middle school and then praying big prayers. So we love that about you, Jude. Way to go. So, okay, you decide you're going to be one of the one more student needed to get the club going.
Yeah.
How did it go? So you decide, okay, we're going to get the club going at our school. What happened next?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I was starting the club with two really awesome seniors, Nathan and Elliot, and just awesome guys. I had seen them before at school. Nathan, I had actually seen even in elementary school. I knew his face, and yet I had never met him. And so learning that he was a Christian and that he was actively trying to do all this stuff too, it was awesome. However, when our club starts and we have no push off or launch or anything like that, and it's dead. Like I have some friends, and same with Elliot and Nathan at the time, who we would invite and they would come. We had some kids mainly athletes actually, who were very interested in joining and seeing what we had to do. And they were very adamant on coming, which I really liked. But yeah, no, that would probably make like 5 students, including us 3, every single week. And so it was like, it wasn't like discouraging in any way, because I know God can move in that small of a group as well. But at the same time, I knew that not a lot of students were getting to hear the word of God, especially since many teachers just were very cut off on that. Like, oh no, we're doing work right now, you can't talk about that. Still are today, which is like, what are you going to do? That's why I'm so glad about the club, is because it's an hour now, because we have it during our study period this year. That was a big change. An hour where we can talk with kids about their thoughts on Christ. We can go through the Bible and study God's word and submerge ourselves in that, which some students don't even go to church on Sunday, and so they're not hearing that at all. That's their time. Thursday in the afternoon, that is their time to hear about Jesus. And so, yeah, no, it's great. It really is a huge change from what we had at the beginning of my sophomore year going through the end, which really was more like December in my sophomore year, because we didn't really even get our papers signed until then. And just those small groups where kids were coming to hear about Jesus, all the way to now, where it's we got a large group, 20 kids who are coming and hearing and then going and spreading what they've learned. So
there's a lot there for anybody that's thinking about launching something, or maybe has recently launched, and they're in that phase where it's okay, it's 2 people showing up, or it's 5 people showing up. And, we share the principle that Jesus taught in Luke, faithful in little, faithful in much. Don't despise small beginnings. Stay faithful. Pray big prayers even while you're staying faithful in little, and then just leave the results to God. But don't be content with just a few people hearing. Let's ask God for a chance to let everybody hear, but then be faithful with little, be faithful with much. And I think so often God likes to let young leaders have those experiences. I remember many times in my life when I was in high school, I got led a prayer meeting, and he's like, 3 or 4 people are showing up, and I'm busting my back just to make this prayer meeting happen for 3 or 4 people. But I felt like it was something that God had entrusted to me, and I needed to be faithful with it, whether it was big or little. And at that time, it was certainly little. So way to go, staying faithful in those moments. Okay, and then you had some challenges, not just of launching things and having to be faithful when it's only a handful of people. Is it okay to say this on the air? You got busted, didn't you? I mean, you got busted. Can you tell us this story?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the best way to put it. I absolutely got busted. I was terrified. The only time,
but busted for Jesus. Okay, let's get the punchline on the table. Busted exactly. The right kind of table. Right kind of busted. But what did that look like for you? What happened?
Yeah, well, like I said, it was terrifying. The only other time I had been to see the principal was in elementary school, and I was weeping my eyes out. And so I was already doing better than then, because I was stone-faced cold. I was like, what's going on here? But so in my sophomore year, pretty close to the launch of our club, I decided to make a sign that had it was a lyric from Stephen Curtis Chapman's song "Jesus Is Life." Because I really like that song, and I was like, hey, that's a great message. Let's get that out there. I think it's capturing, and so kids will see that and want to ask about it. And so I put it on big, bold letters on a sign. I'd wasted a Sharpie on that thing, one of my dad's Sharpies, but luckily he was okay with it. The next day I went out and I was taking it around. We were actually promoting the club that day, and we had donut holes and flyers, and I had that sign out there. And so, I was dragging kids in. They were grabbing a flyer, grabbing a donut, and I carried it around that day, and it was a total hit. People were asking about it. I was like, nice. That's good choice, Jude. You did a really good one there. Like, nice job. Totally building up my ego with that one. And then the next day I brought it, and I was doing the same thing, and I get called up to like the authoritative principal's office, which is not really what his title is. It was more like the activities principal. who dealt with like handling
the principal for troubled youth like Jude.
Exactly, right. And so I was like, oh dang, like this is not good. This is probably going to be bad. I wonder what I did. And I get up there and it's during lunch, and I get up there and he's like, hey, like we see the sign, great message, like I think it's good, but you can't be carrying it around. And the reason he gave was because it was seen as hateful to some. Parents had actually called the school, being like, hey, my kid saw this sign and was like outraged. You can't allow this to happen. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's terrible. But I know I can say this because like kids will have shirts that say even crazier stuff than what I have right now.
Yeah, and remind us what hateful speech you had on the sign. What was it?
It just said Jesus is life, and then it said the air I'm breathing while my heart is beating, everything I'm needing, and it just had that right there. That was considered hateful and oppressive, and wow. I wasn't astonished. I was like, okay, I get it. Can't have this during class. And that's what he said at first. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. It can be a distraction, even though I would say that there are bigger distractions at our school during certain classes. I understand it. I'm not going to cause trouble. And he said, you can leave it in my office during classroom periods, and then during passing periods or lunch periods, you can have it out. And I was like, sweet. Like, that's a total deal. I'll take that. Like, that's when I have the majority of my conversations either way is during lunch. And so, I'm about to go. I'm about to leave. And all of a sudden, the actual principal calls me up, and he's like, hey, like, come to my office right now. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And there was a lot of people in his office. He must have been
now you're seeing two principals in one day?
Yeah. Well,
you really got busted.
When it comes down to it, it was most administration in his office. He must have been having a meeting, and then he heard that I was at the other principal's office, and so he just called me up right there. And so I'm terrified because I'm surrounded by all these people who are giving me glares and stuff like that.
Wait, how many people are in the room?
I don't know, probably around six people, and that's counting all three of the principals at the time, and then some other administration. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you can't have this. And we're not even sitting down. He's sitting down. I'm standing up because it was just a quick call in. He was like, you can't have this sign at all. You can't bring it to school. And immediately I start arguing with him. I'm like, why not? Like, I don't believe you're correct in that. I've seen people wearing stuff like that. And he was saying like any sort of supporting branding or anything like that, you can't have. And I was like, what about like kids that wear like sports shirts? Like, they're supporting a brand of sorts, and like they're able to do that. And I can't carry around a sign that just says something I wrote on it. And yeah, I'm getting really heated. I was a lot angrier than I am right now with you, Mark, but I was at him, and at some point he stopped me and he was like, Jude, you're not acting like Christ right now. Like, your sign right now is saying Jesus is life, and it's everything you're all about. You are not looking like Jesus is. And I was like, oh, I let out a sigh, and I was like, puh. And I left the classroom after he excused me. And I went home that day, and I was out of it. My entire head, my day was ruined. I was like, I can't believe this. Like, this can't be legal. It can't, I have rights as a student. And I'm sitting down, and I just am remembering what he's saying. Like, you're not acting like Christ. And I started thinking, I'm like, maybe I'm not, I got way too outraged at what he was saying. It's a sign made out of some construction paper. Like, it's not the end of the world that I can't carry the sign around. And I got really hateful towards him. And so from that moment on, I was just like, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to apologize. I did the next day. I went back into his office, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was being outrageous. I'd love to talk more with you sometimes about what rights I can have and what I can do. And it was then that I had told him, if there's another way I can figure out how to do this, like if I can put it on a shirt or on some shoes, would that be okay? And he said, yeah, that'd be all right, as long as you're not carrying around a sign. And so I was like, okay. And I went home, and I went on Vans's website, which I had figured out that Vans does a custom message option for your shoes, and I put it on there. I put Jesus' life on there as big as I could without it cutting out of the shoe, and I got it about 3 weeks later, and I put them on. I took them over and I took them all around the school, and everybody was seeing them, and I got a lot of encouragement just from church family and friends who were hearing about this, and a lot of the kids at the school came asking about Christ. Hey, what does that mean? Hey, you're the guy with the Jesus shoes. Like, what are those? Why'd you do that? And all of this came to the effect of having even more people come to know about the message of Christ than the sign would have ever brought. I had kind of mentioned earlier, like that sign was done because I wanted to hold up a big old sign around school. Like if anything, it drew more attention to myself than it drew to the message on the sign. And so this was a way that God was just like, hey, no, we're going to do this my way. We're going to flip this script. It's going to be my message that you're sharing. This is going to be the forefront of what you're going around and spreading around. And so, yeah, no, it was a lot of fear, a lot of anger, and God completely redirected all of that to be used for His good and His glory instead of my own.
That's amazing. Well, we're going to throw a picture up on the screen there for students to see your Jesus shoes. But, there they are. Check that out. Here's Jude's Jesus shoes. And that's amazing, Jude. I love that story. Okay, so Jude, move us forward a little bit from there. That was your sophomore year.
Yeah.
You guys launched the club. You try your sign. You get busted. You do your Jesus shoes instead. You're a senior now. Just catch us up. What have you guys been doing as a club? What are some of the activities you've done? Some of the outreach efforts you've done, and how have you seen the Lord just at work in the last couple of years since you guys launched?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since then, Nathan and Elliot, who are the seniors who helped start the club, are out. They're gone. Their efforts in helping with the club and all of that encouraged me as a younger high schooler to continue doing it. And so the next year I got signed up again as a student leader. I got my notebook and we started in the club, and we actually joined with another Christian club on the school at the very beginning of the year. And so we combined our efforts. All of the students that were going to their club started coming to the combined club that we had, which was just called the Jesus Club. It's easier for students to remember, and as we're going through it, that's the point of the club is that it's all for Jesus. And so we started up the Jesus Club, and yeah, no, not only was our amount of students raised up, but I would say the quality in what we were teaching went up as well. We were going straight from the Bible. A lot of the kids were like, hey, can we do a study on 1 John? Or, hey, can we do a study on this book or this book? And we went into it, and we would just read chapter by chapter, have discussions, ask questions, and it was so edifying and wonderful. Like, it was great. The students were all about it, and they were in it, and yeah. So we did that. We had our club meetings. That's still what it looks like today, even more so as we have more students who are willing to discuss. We break out into groups and we do all that, and it's wonderful. And we also, our sophomore year, at the beginning of the year, we had our first outreach, which was just one day. We didn't do our classic 3-day, which we've luckily been able to do 4 times since. 6 times now. We just had one the other week, but we had a speaker. I'm really trying to remember his name. He was a strong man, and he's able to bend.
You had Andy. Had Andy Gavin.
Absolutely, Andy Gavin. I can't believe that I forgot his name, but he came and he gave his testimony, and he gave the story of what Jesus had done to 50 students that day, and we had pizza. And it was wonderful, and the kids who went to the club enjoyed it. The kids who had never seen us or met us or even heard about Jesus enjoyed it. Everybody loved it, and everybody was able to hear a pretty solid message on who Jesus was. And so that was really the ending thing of my sophomore year. Junior year, we were all in it. We hit it even harder. We had 2 outreaches, one in the fall and one in the spring. And those were both 3-day outreaches where we promoted on Monday, and then we went out through it and we did it. And yeah, it was great. We got local pastors, youth pastors, Decision Point staff to come and share about the good news of Jesus. And like, I'm telling you, these kids love hearing about what God can do in their lives. Like it is attractive to students, and I think it is because of the scourge and of sin that is in the schools, like this violence and the drug abuse and all of this. Like kids need to hear about their only hope. It's drawing. It's not like it's some hoax or anything like that. We tell them that there's pizza and that there might not be pizza at the end of it, and that they might not get some.
There's going to be, but there may not be.
Exactly. Sometimes we run out. In fact, we had that problem a few weeks ago at our last outreach. That was last week, actually. And yeah, one of the days we ran out, and I probably got 2 kids out of the 30 that didn't get pizza. Probably had 2 kids that were like, "Man, I didn't even get any food after this." And everybody else was just like, "Hey, it's okay. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Like, this is what I really came here for." And hearing that is like, whoa, it makes your heart explode, because these kids who most of them really only care about getting food during lunch and sitting down and hanging out with their friends, they see this as an opportunity, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the Jesus Club is doing their stuff again. We're going to be able to hear about Jesus." And they come and they sit down, they listen so adamantly and so respectfully to the speakers that we have, and it is just mind-blowing. So yeah, we just had ours. We did the Set Free outreach week, and it was a total success. It was wonderful. All the speakers did a great job, and yeah, we haven't gone over the response cards yet, so I can't tell you our exact numbers when it comes to recommitments and kids who are looking for youth groups. But we had 210 kids the second day, and the same number the last day. And so we had just students flocking in. We had kids sitting on the steps, and luckily on the last day we had enough pizza for everybody. So yeah,
that's right. You got to get it together on the food, even if they're coming without.
Our first
that's
day,
amazing. That's a long way to go from 3 students saying, "Hey, let's start a club," to now we're seeing a couple hundred students hearing about Jesus at lunchtime.
Yeah, for sure. Our first day last week, we had, I think, 75 students in all, because we have 2 lunches now. We split them up. And so both first lunch and second lunch, we had 75 students. And so we weren't planning for that much, especially because a lot of new freshmen, a lot of new sophomores were coming in. And so a lot of people didn't even know about the club. But the next day, we were just blown away with how many kids came. And yeah, plentiful was the harvest. It was beautiful. It was really good.
Jude, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we want to hear another one of your stories, because I know you got busted. I also know you got hardcore shut down one time, but God did a 180 and even that story. So we're going to get to that story right after this quick break.
Hey, it's Heather. What if you could spend 1 week this summer with like-minded students that love Jesus and together want to reach this generation with the gospel? I want to invite you to join us for Decision Point's Student Leader Conference 2024. Come be equipped to live, stand, and witness, and even endure for Christ in your everyday life. We'll be there in Denver, Colorado this summer, July 15th to the 19th. Students, youth pastors, and leaders will gather from across the country to worship the Lord, be trained up, prayed up, and then go back to reach their schools and generation with the gospel. Dynamic guest speakers will equip you in your faith. We'll talk apologetics. You'll hear from culturally relevant speakers that don't shy away from a biblical worldview, equipping you in even hard conversations you may face today. Come be trained in your leadership. Hear how to reach your school and peers for Christ, and grow in your evangelism as we get to go downtown witnessing in Denver. You'll get to meet like-minded believers that will encourage you and even build lasting friendship. You'll have unforgettable memories, and truly, it is a week that can change everything. I can't wait to be at SLC 2024 with students like you from across the nation. So what are you waiting for? Go register today. slc2024.org. Tell your youth pastor about it. Come with a group of students from your youth group or Christian club and register today at slc2024.org. That's slc2024.org.
Hey, well, welcome back. I've got Jude Fillenberg here, senior in high school at Mountain View High School in Tucson, Arizona. Hey, Jude, thanks so much for being here, by the way. Great to hear your story and how God's been working through you and your fellow leaders for Christ at Mountain View. We just, over the break, heard a quick plug for our student leader conference this summer. Jude, you've been to the conference now twice. Yeah. What's the week like from your perspective?
It is a total blast. I mean, not only was I able to reconnect with some of the Tucson students who are doing what I'm doing, but I was able to meet kids from all around the nation. Well, I guess I should say world now, but since we had some people from Canada as well, and hear what they're doing and hearing their stories is the biggest encouragement. Like, it's really great. It's great to hear from parents and all that and hear the encouragement from them. But when you see a student who is going out and they are giving their all for Christ, it is like it puts you in a whole different world. You're like, I got to do the same thing. And so, yeah, no, I love seeing all the kids there. The worship is always great. Really, it's awesome to see how students appreciate and worship our great God, who we love. And so I love doing that with everybody. And yeah, no, it's just really good time. And Colorado is beautiful. And so it's always wonderful going up there and enjoying the weather and seeing God's beautiful creation. So, yeah.
Well, it's a great state, great campus too. So anybody who's checking it out, thinking about going, what would Jude say?
Yeah, absolutely go.
Well, I can't wait to see what God's going to do and the students we're going to get to meet this summer. Okay, so Jude, we did a cliffhanger. You got busted. We heard that story. You had an amazing thing happen. A friend of yours, do just a complete 180. So spoiler alert there. We just kind of teed it up. This is a great story that does start off with a hard thing. Can you tell us about that hard thing first and how you got shut down? And then what did God do to bring that situation around?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I had a friend, both my years in middle school. She's really great, and we had band together, and we sat right next to each other, and we really did everything together. We had lunch, and we had some classes, and she had been raised in the church, but it wasn't really her thing. She didn't really appreciate what they were doing, and a lot of the stuff that the church was spreading around. And I don't necessarily blame her on all that. She was raised in the Catholic Church. And so I know that there can be some stuff there that she would still disagree with today. And she very much knew that I was a Christian, and I'd spread it out. And so going from 8th grade to my freshman year, I remember texting her one day. I had posted something about Jesus on my Instagram, and yeah, no, she was just like, "Hey, like, this isn't cool. I don't really like what you're spreading. We're done." Like, and that's a shorter version of what really happened. We talked for a while, weeks on end, but eventually she was like, "We're done. I'm not talking with you again. Like this, our friendship is over. In high school, I don't want you talking with me." And I was like, "Hey, like, I understand if that's how it's going to be. I'm always here if you have any questions or anything like that, or if you just want to be friends again. I'm willing and open." And she was like, "That's not going to happen."
So what's that feel like, huh?
It was terrible. I mean, this was one of my greatest friends. From elementary school to middle school, I kind of lost all my friends. And so it was tough just with different classes and the mix of all of the different elementary schools going into my middle school. I just kind of lost a lot of them. And now going into my high school years, I was doing the exact same thing. I was losing all my friends because she was kind of there in our friend group that we had. And so it was like, man, this sucks. You know, I mean, it's a fresh start, but it still sucks. Freshman year, of course, which can be scary for really anybody. And so, cut to last year, my junior year. And we had our 2 outreaches, the one in the autumn and one in the spring. And during the first one that we had, we were handing out Bibles like crazy. We had boxes and boxes, and kids were getting the Word of God right from this event that we were having. And somehow, I still don't know completely how, but somehow she got one of these Bibles that we were handing out. She didn't go to our first outreach, but she got one from her friend. and she ended up reading it, and she gave her life to Christ, which was wonderful, and I couldn't believe it. The way that I found out that this had happened was at our second outreach that we had later that year. She was talking with one of the Decision Point staff about her story and about our friendship and kind of how that ended. And yeah, no, Bree, who she was talking to, ended up coming to me and was like, "Hey, like, did you hear about that? Like, she totally loves Christ." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like my eyes filled up with water because I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that she would make such a radical change after some of the things that she had said and just some of the beliefs that she used to hold. And luckily it was through the Word of God and the Word of God alone. I'm so glad that God was able to use me and everybody else that he used in her walk to get her to that point. But it was God's word and his message that he delivers through that changed her heart completely. And luckily the Holy Spirit lives in her today. She comes to club all the time, and I actually have a class with her, and we're good pals. And so, yeah, that's really good. Really, really cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Jude, you've had a lot of highs. You've had a lot of lows. We just salute you for your faithfulness through it all. I wonder, as you look back on just multiple years now of being a leader for the Lord at your high school, what are some of the hardest things that you just have to deal with as a leader at your school?
Yeah, I would say the hardest thing, mainly for me at least, and this might not be the same for everybody else, is the developing more kids to come and do the same thing. It's really tough to find students who are willing to drop everything in a sense and to live fully for Christ. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist and that schools aren't filled with kids that are willing to do that. It's just really hard to get to that point. And so I'm in constant prayer that God will send some kids who are willing to take it at least another year, or hopefully another 4 years if I can find a strong freshman who would be willing to help out and to serve Christ. But yeah, no, I think the hardest thing can just be the other leaders. It's and again, it could just be me. I'm a social person, but when it comes to certain things, I just, get afraid and I don't want to make those opportunities or take those. But yeah, no, we're really praying that some students will come up, step up, that God will change some hearts, and that there will be students thousands of times bolder than I am, who will go and do great things for Christ. So yeah.
I tell you that, and that's the challenge, isn't it? I mean, going it alone is hard. I know you've had leaders and you have leaders still, but I know something that so many of our student leaders share with us is just that sense of, man, I wish we had more leaders that were in it with us today, and I'm really concerned that we have more for tomorrow. And that's why that Matthew 9 prayer is so powerful, Jude, to say, okay, we've got to be praying earnestly, or, like we were looking at together, begging God for workers for the harvest. And so for us, we're always looking for more staff to be like that Eric and Bree type figure for students like you. But then together we want to be praying for God to raise up students all around the country, all around the world. But what a powerful prayer that you guys already are praying and can continue praying. God, raise up students better than me, bolder than me, brighter than me, but are going to be passionate about reaching this high school for decades to come. While you were talking, I was thinking about my wife's uncle, and he told me one day, he said that apparently his family can trace their spiritual heritage back to the 1600s. And there were these guys that in their family heritage back in the 1600s said, Lord, would you raise up in every generation somebody in our family lineage to be a full-time minister of the gospel? I mean, there's nothing more holy about being a pastor or a missionary, but also that's a high and noble calling. And they wanted to have, they were, I think, in vocational ministry pastors or whatever it was, and they wanted to see that continue. And so they prayed, Lord, would you raise up somebody in our family lineage from every generation to come? And so he said that one day he told his mom that he wanted to be a missionary. And he knew nothing about this prayer that his ancestors had been praying. And she said, oh, that's good. You just fulfilled the prayers of our ancestors because you're now the 10th generation to be crazy. A pastor or missionary. and we didn't want to tell you because we didn't want to like guilt trip you into it. But I thought, what a powerful prayer. I mean, so you could pray that for your school. Would you raise up, God, every generation till Jesus returns, somebody to come and preach the gospel at our school? And wouldn't it be great to see what God does through that, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it's a wonderful thing to pray for. I think it's great to remember that it is God fully who works in us, and that it is not our doing, and that completely it's based on God's plan. So yeah, thank you for that encouragement.
Amen. Well, Jude, so okay, on the opposite side of that, I guess just two last questions for you is, what's kept you going all these years, and has it been worth it?
What is keeping me going completely, whether I have the drive for it or not, it's God. God is the thing that is driving me forward. He is the moving force. Nothing that is good in me comes from me. It all comes from him. And so any boldness that I have, any courage, any love for Christ is luckily emboldened all the more because of Christ. And so I think encouragement is found in a hearty relationship with him, and through the study of God's word. The people who I have in my life are also awesome. My dad, my mom, my church family, my pastor. They definitely are a huge encouragement around every step. And so I think it's great, that encouragement, I guess I would say.
That's great. Well, Jude, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for your leadership, your example that you're setting to so many around the country. We're just thrilled to have you on. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, listen, check it out. Make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app, subscribe on YouTube, like the episode, rate, review if you would, share it with a friend. We need to help more students hear Jude's story, so you can help get that story out to encourage and inspire more students with the ways that the Lord's grown Jude and worked through him so they can be encouraged as well. You're not going to want to miss next week. We've got Joseph Golding to come share a special spoken word rap performance that he's put together called I Have Decided, that he's already sharing and performing with students around the country. You're not going to want to miss it. So we'll see you next week.